I saw a really interesting article on Nintendo Life about preserving your 3DSs and Wii U's now that the stores are closing down. And I thought, actually, this is a worthy topic to discuss for Vita as well. How to preserve your Vita and your Vita games, given we will eventually have the store shutting down. And so I wanted to talk about some of the ways that we can do that, some of the things that you can do to prepare for this. So the first thing, Vita memory cards, they will eventually fail. We need to just accept that. And so we need to think about backing up. Now, obviously, you can buy more Vita memory cards and have them available and backed up in case the one you're using fails. So that's one option. The probably much better option is hacking your Vita and using an SD card to store all of your games, all the patches, all the saves. Look, one day we may not have access to the cloud servers from PS Plus on our Vitas. And so having an SD memory card and making sure you've got all your games downloaded, all the patches downloaded, and having your save files there, that would be the ideal situation. Because then you can always kind of go back to that SD card. You can load your PSN account onto a new Vita and use that SD card. Obviously, you need to hack the new Vita as well. But that is probably the best option in terms of backing up and saving all of your games. The fact is, once the store closes, games need patches. You know, the PlayStation Vita games, PS3, PS4, PS5, all these games have lots of patches in them that really change the way they run and improve the performance. And so we kind of need to think about that when it comes to preservation as well. And so having everything on an SD card, taking the time to download all of the games in your download list, making sure they're patched and ready to go, that, in my opinion, is the best way to preserve games. Now, you can also back up to a PC. We're no longer able to back up our Vitas or transfer games from a PS3, but you can still back up to a PC. It is a very slow process, so if you've got a 64 gig a memory card, it does take hours from memory. I haven't done it for a little while, but it takes like 2 or 3 hours to back it up. But that's an option, of course, as well. And so if you ever did lose your 64 gig card, or if anything happened to it and you need to replace it, then you can back up your whole Vita and all the games, everything on it, to a PC and then return it back to a Vita again. That's a decent option, but like I said, I would definitely go with the hacked Vita and SD card as the best way to make sure that you're backing up everything, you've got all your games, patches and saves available to you. Now, you also need to think about physical games as well, because when it comes down to it, I've got a massive collection of physical games, but again, the save files and also patches for those games, and DLC, of course, they're not going to be on the cart for a lot of games. So, when I think about Borderlands 2, for example, we had all the DLC. We had 2 pieces of extra DLC in terms of extra campaigns, and then there was a whole load of other DLC available for that game. And that is obviously not on the cart. So again, having that backed up, so going through your physical games, making sure that you put them into your Vita, and then you download the patches, download saves. That way at least means that you can go back and reload those physical games. You can still play them to the best ability if we ever lost access to the stores, our download list, or availability to patch our games. Now, another thing to think about is the actual devices themselves. These devices will not last forever. I've had one Vita that had stick drift on the left analog stick, and these things will happen eventually. It did take a good 4 or 5 years for that to happen to one of my Vitas. But we also need to think about things like the batteries going wrong. So a couple of things to think about here. You can obviously replace parts to your Vita. You can buy on eBay replacement analog sticks for your Vita if they do go wrong. An extreme case, and this is what I've done, is I've got multiple Vitas, so I've got multiple Vitas. If ever my main Vita goes wrong, then I can open up one of my newer ones that I haven't used yet, and I can use that as kind of my backup as well. Which is great, but I know that's not really going to be an option for a lot of people, especially given how expensive Vitas are becoming. Another thing you should think about is when it comes to the battery itself, because the Vita has an inbuilt battery, you should try to open up your Vita and when I say open up, sorry, I meant take it out of the box. If you're like me, you've got backup Vitas. take it out of the box, charge it, turn it on every few months. Because if you leave the battery for months and months without using it, then eventually it'll stop working. So, and this is good advice for other devices as well. So I've got a backup 3DS. I've got a few PSP Go's as well. So every now and again, every 3 or 4 months, I take them all out, I charge them up, I turn them on, make sure they're all okay and working, and then I put them back in the box again. So make sure you try and do that as well, just to make sure that the battery stays fresh and doesn't kind of die over time. Make sure you look after your Vitas as well. So having, say, a screen protector to make sure that if you drop your Vita, the screen doesn't crack, making sure you keep it in a nice kind of secure place, like maybe in the original box if you still have it, just so it stays in good shape, that it's not going to get kind of squashed underneath lots of books or other items. You know, these little things, just make sure you're kind of thinking about the condition you're keeping your devices in as well. If you have a hard case available or some kind of case for the Vita that can protect it, that would be ideal. And also at least keeping it sealed away, it helps avoid kind of too much dust getting into it as well. That's kind of a basic tip for most devices, but you know, just try and look after your device basically, because if you want to keep using it in the future, that's going to be important too. So guys, those are my thoughts, my tips when it comes to looking after your Vitas, trying to preserve it for the future. For me, the biggest concern is really those cloud saves and patches, because I feel like that's something that we will just lose very easily once the store shuts down. I think I've got so many physical games and so many games that I've bought physically just for the purpose of having them available if the store ever shut down, that I'm less worried about that. But patches and saves, they for me are a bit more of a concern. And so I'm really glad that I have hacked my Vita, that I've got pretty much all my games library downloaded onto Vita with saves. I'm really glad I've done that. But that is obviously a choice if you want to hack your Vita and want to have that all kind of in one place. I don't think Sony have given us much reason to not hack our Vitas anymore. I think recently with the taking away the functionality to back up our Vitas and transfer games from a PS3, I think it just makes sense personally, but obviously it's individual choice. You know, you don't have to engage in piracy, but it's still worth having a hacked Vita just to take advantage of some of these other benefits like the SD card. So guys, those are a few of my tips in terms of preserving your Vitas. Let me know your thoughts. What else would you recommend that I do, that everyone else does, to make sure that our Vitas and our games are available for years and years in the future? Leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.